And you're on mute, so I'm not sure what the commercial is for this. That was funny. This show is being brought to you by Chateau de L'Arme Blanche, where
Yeah.
every white tear is just as succulent as delicious as the previous.
We have a
Chateau de
new
L'Arme
sponsor.
Blanche. Yes. Yes, brought to you by the makers of Fuck Your Feelings Pinot Noir.
Okie dokie. Well, Joy, it's good to see you behind this beautiful, I guess. There we go.
Mm, yeah, I'm gonna
Are
take
you
that
there,
down.
Tom?
Good to see you too. Yeah, I think
Hey,
Tom's having a
Joy.
little bit of an issue. So,
You
hey,
look like you're in an undisclosed location.
I know, right? I'm in hiding. Actually, I finally finished my move from my last condo, and I moved in here on what's today? I moved in here on Tuesday, and as you
Okay.
can see, there's still boxes everywhere. I had to eat my dinner with chopsticks because that's all I could find. I have found things I didn't know. I found a set of pans I don't remember owning, but I can't
Wow.
find
Wow.
my silverware.
Moving has
Yeah,
those beautiful discoveries. I love moving. It's like, oh my God, I forgot I had that.
that's
Right.
that is exactly true because stuff you have been looking for 3 years, you're like, I knew I hadn't lost it. That
Yeah.
hello,
And
I
Anthony
found a
Turner.
whole container of hibiscus tea that I thought I used up. I was like, where was that? Where was that? Because I looked for it. But the Packers, they found it and wrapped it in
Listen,
like six inches of paper and put it in a box like by itself. Like, why they got paid by the box.
mm,
clearly,
That's what it is. Mhm.
clearly.
did you purge? Did you get rid of shit? Or you kept everything?
I purged a lot of stuff.
Okay, good. Yeah.
I like there were some things like as I was going through, I was like, I don't need none of this. And I started and like I got real brutal with it. Like t-shirts that my friends had given me over the years. I was like, I don't even wear this. All this is
Mm,
gone.
Mm.
I don't even I don't even fit this anymore. So a whole lot of we not getting back into this. Let all this
no.
go. A lot of like glassware and stuff. I just wrapped all of that in some towels I didn't want anymore and put it all in the Goodwill. Like here, y'all can have all of this. So
That's growth.
it
That's
feels
growth.
good. Mhm.
Yeah.
It is nice to be able to let go of things. I
Yeah.
know I have way too much paraphernalia, and so I always try to give pieces away when we bring in some new cats. And so I'm still not anywhere near through where I need to be in terms of getting rid of crap. But here we are. It is therapeutic. Thank you, Anthony. Indeed, it is. And some people, if we can dance a little bit into one of the topics of today, some people are finding that purging their Teslas is actually therapeutic because they have become targets. And interestingly enough, did everybody like, by the way, did they like the cover image of today's episode? I was trying to bring forth a little bit of Schadenfreude and no, not I'm sorry, not that one. The actual image that promoted the show with Felon Usk standing in the midst of a huge burning space of dollars and stock devaluations.
Mm.
Yo,
Um,
couldn't have happened to a better person to have happened to them.
yeah,
You know
It's
what's
like that
interesting
dog.
about
This is
this?
fine. Everything's fine.
Do you
everything's
think
fine.
do you think that he really understands his customer? Because people who buy Teslas and you're in that mixed Joy, they're very environmentally conscious. They're liberals. They're looking out for the world and environment around them. They're not
Mhm.
the people that he's placating to now.
You
So
make a
it's like
very good point.
I don't understand. Like, when did everything get lost? It's like, how did you not make that correlation between your customer and what you're doing? Like, it doesn't add up.
Well,
Not
the
only
interesting
that,
thing. Oh, go ahead, Joy.
not only that, but if you think about Trump's base, that's the Rust Belt, that's the American automotive workers, that's oil and
Ford,
gas all through Texas, and
Chevrolet.
all EVs are a big middle finger to all of that anyway. And so here's the ringleader of electronic vehicles that convinced everybody to buy one in the early like 2012 and 2013 and whatnot. And like you said, the people that could afford one, like my Tesla's at this point 12 years old. the things that I didn't buy 12 years ago, but it's old. And so the people that bought those were trying to be eco-friendly, and they had a fuck ton of money. Like Tesla's was $50,000 for the base model,
yeah,
right? And you had to have money, and so you're looking at college educated, single, most likely affluent people who tend to lean liberal. And now we're all driving these cars. That's why, you know what's trending on Etsy? Bumper stickers that say, "I bought this pre-insanity." You know, I got one coming in the mail in a couple of days that says, "I bought this before I knew he was crazy." Pro-environment, anti-fascism. I got two. So I need one for the front and the back, because people have been running around keying. They've been keying up cars and whatnot, and they've been setting dealerships on fire, because luckily the people that are burning them recognize that burning somebody's car doesn't do as much damage as burning the dealership down before they've been sold. And anybody with a Tesla truck on first of all, if you got a Tesla truck and you driving it around, I feel sorry for your sexual partner, because I know why you're driving that truck. But above and beyond that, when you bought it, he was already headed towards insane. You probably bought it after he bought Twitter, which means you've known he's been a dick this whole time. So good luck, trucks with the rims falling off. What did they say now? Most recently, they're being recalled as the trims.
There is a recall of every single Tesla Cybertruck, every single one, because whole pieces. Basically, what they're saying is that if you bought a Cybertruck, 85% of what keeps it together is like double-sided puffy tape. It's like there's nothing welded. It's just crazy. And when you think about Trump's mantra of drill, baby, drill, he wasn't drilling for wind farms to make electricity. He was drilling for oil to drive your petroleum-powered car. And the fact that these two are such strange bedfellows, is really striking to me.
So dirty about EVs a while back. He used to talk shit about Teslas and everything else.
If you're driving along the freeway and your car runs out of electricity, what are you going to do? It's like, well, I mean, there is a whole infrastructure now for charging stations. However, I would say, Miles, perhaps an erector dysfunction set, to Joy's point. But in addition to the fact that he had already lost $800 billion plus in market cap since the inauguration, 800 billion, not million, almost $1 trillion in market cap. He has lost more market cap than the big three automakers combined. Their market capitalization is less combined than his loss in market cap. And that was before you had to recall every single one of your Cybertrucks. So now the stock is going to be even worse. This is a person who has literally lost more money than anybody in the history of the world, even if that money, most of it is pretend. Right. It's still $200 billion that you've lost in 3 months.
Right.
I don't care if you're worth $600 billion. Losing $200 billion makes you look stupid. And when your whole brand is about being big and smart, losing $200 billion is not a good look in the brand. And I don't know if anybody had some moments of delight like I did when they rolled back some clips of him in the recent past where he's saying the Western, he was talking to Joe Rogan, the Western civilization bug, the thing that is causing the decline of Western civilization is empathy and compassion. You're not supposed to be empathetic and compassionate. So now he's on an interview and they're like, why are they burning the dealerships? Why are they boycotting your cars? Why are they doing this? Why are they doing that? And he says, I thought the left was supposed to be empathetic and caring. And it seems like there's so much hate on the left. And it's like, guys, yes, there are protests outside of Tesla dealerships.
I actually reposted that quote. I was looking for it real quick. So I'm going to read to you what he said on CNN. Said the fundamental weakness of Western civilization is empathy, the empathy exploit, Musk said.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They're exploiting a bug in Western civilization, which is the empathy response. Empathy, he said, has been weaponized. Now, below that is this additional quote from G.M. Gilbert, who was the chief psychologist who interviewed Nazis on trial at Nuremberg. And his words are as valid today. It says, I told you once that I was searching for the nature of evil. I think I've come close to defining it. A lack of empathy. It's the one characteristic that connects all defendants in the Nuremberg trials. A genuine incapacity to feel with their fellow man. Evil, I think, is the absence of apathy. And Musk calls it an exploit. Apathy is the problem. And then he had the nerve to want some. Boy, if you don't get all the hell way up out of here.
And in his tightest feelings, because he can't believe all I'm trying to do is make government more efficient. And here's the thing. No, you're not. Because all of those people you fired who then had to be rehired, there's a woman who works at the National Institutes of Health. This is not someone who's, counting widgets. This is a person trying to solve infectious diseases. This is a person trying to help our country. As measles outbreaks are spiking and babies, newborn babies in Texas being exposed to measles. Haven't even had vaccination 1, breathing in measles. Y'all, you thought because there were little sores on your body that measles is like a touch contact thing. No, it's airborne.
Airborne, exactly.
And it's highly infectious. And these babies that you care so much about, because you certainly didn't want them to be aborted, except you're giving them measles as soon as they enter into the world. How do you think that's going to work? Babies go blind because of measles.
They do.
Babies die because of measles.
And then you're going to have a whole new set of young adults that are going to need DEI, because they're going to need some disability support.
Oh, but you did hear what's going on with that. A lot of people are there. The FAFO has hit that particular community. People who didn't understand that they were going to be adversely affected by the Department of Education being dramatically rolled back. You know what I'm saying? Like a lot of people who have children with disabilities, their first point of contact is the office of I want to say civil services, something like that. And they get monies every month because they have a child with disabilities. So when they try to access those departments, there's no one there to pick up the phone. No one there to pick up the phone. You know what I'm saying? Because they've been dramatically reduced. So they're finding out that, they're pretty much having to fend for themselves. And this is like money that can drain even the wealthiest or the well-to-do in our society. Because that money is like by the thousands a month just to educate and properly, assess a child that has special needs. That's a lot of money that they get from the government every month. So they're not getting anyone, and probably those they're going to be rolled back as with the Department of Education being, cut now. It kind of reminds me of back in the day when you had a kid that was born with, somewhat of an issue, how they would send them away because all of a sudden, they just weren't deemed to be like within society. That's what it kind of harkens to a little bit to me, is what we're going with all this. Just because you had a child.
That's where we're headed.
You remember back in the day when a kid was born with a deficiency, they just sort of like went away.
It disappeared.
And that's what this kind of reminds me of a little bit.
But they kept them in the house and didn't really, like you just like Uncle so-and-so never had a job, live upstairs, and we just don't talk about them. There's somebody like that in every family.
They weren't integrated in society because government didn't have any structure to do that, as we I guess still do, but who knows, in the future.
It's the whole we don't talk about Bruno.
Yeah.
No, of it all.
Yeah, and Bruno's living in the walls with like some mental issues.
Walls.
Yep.
I want to give a shout out to 2 folks whose names I can't recall seeing in the chat before. So Vincent Durham and Miles Simmons. So
that's
Vincent,
my invite. Hello, Mr. Durham.
That's your invite. Thank you for joining Jermaine at his behest. And Miles, thank you for joining us. We have Chan in here as Hatobu talking about Tesla. Speaking of Teslas, Joy, if you don't know where the manual release on your Tesla is, I suggest you find it and practice using it. And then, of course, Mark Stepney, didn't Spartans do that with babies way back when? Yes. Maybe even in Alabama, it'll be coming back.
Yeah.
Because there's a
And
lot going on.
yeah.
So yeah, people are just finding out in so many ways as these programs are being rolled back and as these departments are being like slashed. Like, wait a minute, this affects my life too. So I guess there's really no way to foresee the giant scope of who's going to be impacted until it hits your front door. And it seems
except
like
we
not
told
one.
you.
Yeah, it's
Except
like not
for
one
except for
person.
Project 2025 and months of Kamala Harris and Jasmine
Mhm.
Crockett and tons of other people saying, you know, this is what he finna do. You know, this is what he finna do. All of you people whose wives or husbands were on student visas and you thought that now that you're married, it's just like green card and it's all good. Nope, them visas expired and now you got to go.
Yeah.
And they don't care. Oh, I was sure he was just going to do the people who were here illegally. You do know that an expired visa makes you illegal in the eyes of the government. It's not just people who snuck across the border. It's anyone whose stay in this country is no longer covered by a
Right.
visa. Also, people who are in this country legally with identification who are also just being thrown out the country. If you
Yeah.
have a Z on the end of your name, if your name is Anita or Pedro or Jorge,
Or
and you
Ensign.
have a
Yeah.
Z on the
Ez,
end of your name,
Gonzalez, Ramirez.
please don't speak with any sort of accent.
Not even as
You
dope.
better be talking to the police just about like this if you want to make sure that nobody believes that you're actually an undocumented immigrant who came into this country under false pretenses.
That's
better
really
sound like
kind of
that.
creepy how you do that.
I know.
I
It's
mean,
a character.
it's a useful skill.
I
Code
was speaking
switch.
to this guy at my gym, and of course he's on the other side. And he was like, I just, I don't think we were voting for this. I said, no, you were, but you were just voting that it would happen to other people and not you.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it was. You did
This,
vote for this.
you
but
know
you
what?
voted
What's the
that this would
phrase?
happen to other people. Yeah.
What they all were doing was drinking poison, hoping that their enemy would die.
Yeah.
And so you sitting here like, yes, yo, you wait, you just wait. Because as soon as I finish this, that's it for you. Why am I hurt? Why does my chest burn?
It's like that scene in The Princess Bride where the Dread Pirate Roberts was competing against Vizzini, and he said, "This is iocane powder. It's tasteless, odorless, and it dissolves instantly." And he puts it in both the drinks and switches the glasses, and Vizzini thinks he's fooled him, and he says, "No, I've spent the last 10 years developing an immunity to iocane powder."
Exactly.
So that's Musk and Trump. Musk and Trump had the immunity, and they were straight feeding y'all the poison, and you were like, "Yup, yeah."
I got something else I want to read. So this is I'm quoting from my friend Oz Longworth. He actually has been on the show at least once before, as a guest a while back. He has his own podcast, which I can't remember the name of right now. Ooh, Oz, I'm so sorry. But anyway, he wrote a little story a la Michael Harriet earlier today. He's like, two people standing in the street. One person, excuse me, a car's coming. What? You're standing in the street and that car is coming. I think you're going to get hit. You're just trying to scare me out of my inalienable right to stand here in the street. Fuck you. To be fair, getting hit by a car is scary, but your whole premise for why I should listen to you is rooted in fear. Yes, fear of vehicular homicide. You need to move. I don't think my only option should be come to the sidewalk or die. Okay, we can talk about that over here on the sidewalk, right? This is an issue that deserves unpacking, and I'm willing to hear you out at some point, but come over here. Okay, great. You're not moving. Come here. Come here. We can talk. We cannot talk if you're dead. So for now, just get out the street. Can you get out the street? If you stay in the street, you're going to die. You don't know that. We know exactly that because the driver of that car did exactly this 4 years ago. He got in the car, he floored it, he hit everyone, told the people who liked him to get in their cars and hit everyone else, and was put on trial and still isn't in prison for hitting everyone with the car, including you. Well, I'm still here. I survived it. Yeah, you survived it, but everyone didn't. That's why I'm here on the sidewalk. Fine. Okay, whatever. Okay. Yo, are you gonna come over to the sidewalk or what? Nope. I kind of felt like that's what you were gonna say. Well, convince me. Convince me to come over to the sidewalk. There's no cars on the sidewalk. So Megan Thee Stallion's over here on the sidewalk. Megan Thee Stallion's real cute, but I'm not convinced. Just because she look good in the blazer don't mean I need to be on the sidewalk. Look, because your whole platform is rooted in fear, and that's why I'm not coming to the sidewalk. Fear of getting hit by a car. I'm trying to help you. But how do I know the sidewalk is any better? You can have a knife or a gun over there on the sidewalk. You can run away from a knife or a gun. You can live through that. You're not going to live through getting hit by a car. Says who? Stay out there then. And so that is a long way of the same thing that I've been telling people, which is the stove is hot. I've told you 15 different ways to get your ass out the street. And you sitting here arguing with me as the car is coming about why you don't need to get out the street because I'm fear mongering. And then when you get hit, you're going to want me to take you to the hospital. Die there in the street.
So,
because I told you.
As you were telling that story, it reminded me of the Gen X mom who was trying to tell her daughter that the pan she just took out of the oven was hot. And the daughter is holding her hands like this. And she says, the pan is hot. And she keeps her hands under. The pan is hot. And she finally pulls her hands to the side. Your ass dead. You dead in the street because you would not listen to reason. What?
The pan is hot. The stove is hot. The streets is hot. Move. No, I don't see why I need to move. I think you're just fear mongering. You know what? When you get hit, don't ask me for nothing.
Nothing.
And the entire MAGA movement is sitting there saying, I'm for the street.
But they've gotten away in this country, and I guess to their, point, they've gotten away for so long by being above certain things, by not being affected by, what we would be affected by. So that gives them this false sense of security about a lot of things. It's a very false sense of security. And even when they would get caught up in sort of the pushback or sort of like the bad decision making that they would do back in the day, they wouldn't say anything. They keep it to themselves, or their money would buy them out and make it all better, and we'd never know that they were suffering. But some kind of way, they were able to keep up an appearance that they were never, affected by this set of bad decision. But now it's not like that. It's like, wait a minute, you can't buy your way out of what's going on right now. You can't really privilege your way out of what's going on. You're trying, but you can't.
You can barely sell your Tesla stock.
I'm so glad I dumped that Tesla stock a while back.
Yeah.
Like, I think when he bought X, I was like, yeah, I'm out.
I mean, millionaires will be affected by what's going on. I mean, unless you're like in the very top percent of, this country's wealth, everybody is going to feel the stench of what they're trying to do to us right now.
Yes, everyone. And again, I've been telling all my people that don't know they're middle class, if you go to work every day and you collect, if you have a W-2, you are not rich. You are not in that 10%, 1% range. If you have to have someone do your taxes for you at the end of the year, you no. And it's not your own personal lawyer. You're not rich. You just got some money. You may even have some generational middle classness wealth, but you're not rich.
Yeah.
You are not shielded in the same way that actual wealth.
If an asteroid hit, your name not even on the list for the bunker to be considered. Speaking of which,
ain't no deep impacts apartment for you, bro.
No. Speaking of which, I want everybody to go back and watch Don't Look Up. Some movies that I think speak to our context right now: Idiocracy and Don't Look Up. Specifically because Idiocracy is what we're seeing in. Not only that, Idiocracy is the movie that introduced Crocs to the world, by the way. But Don't Look Up specifically, there is a rich white guy who is a fake nice guy, but a total narcissistic jackass in the background, owns the president to where when he claps, the president jumps, decides that the meteor that is coming for the earth has some minerals in it that he wants, and says, don't use the government listen to this. Don't use the government stuff. Don't use your own space rocket ships. I got a iPhone type rocket thing that I can do. Let me send my stuff up there. We'll break up the comet, and we'll break up the comet, and then we'll harvest the pieces, and you don't even have to worry about it. I got it. Let me do it. Sabotage everybody else, sends his shit out, and similar to a certain other person whose last name rhymes with Husk, this shit broke when it got into the outside the atmosphere, and now we can't stop the comet, and the whole world, spoiler, the whole world dies. But it's worth watching. That movie was so insidiously good. I went outside and looked at the night sky just to make sure that it wasn't a grand like trap to have people looking up like, is there a comet? I need, for real? Because it was just that good. Don't Look Up is the name. I think it's still on Netflix.
I will tell you that, interestingly enough, in a sign of brief good news for Elon Musk, Tesla stock actually ended up 0.4 points up today. However,
from where?
In after hours trading, it's back down. Down
so
negative 1.2.
That's what the little Tesla son got him, was 0.4 points.
Yeah, and now it's gone down. Lutnick and the president both shilling President Trump literally doing a Tesla commercial on the White House grounds. That's not a monument. And then this guy, Lutnick, telling everybody to buy Tesla, like a sitting government official, putting his thumb on the marketplace and advising everyone in America to buy a singular stock isn't stock manipulation. That's not at all illegal. Yeah. Not at all illegal, like President Trump signing executive order to shutter the Department of Education, which of course would require congressional consent since it was created by Congress. You don't just get to just say,
he doesn't know how the presidency works. He doesn't know how this country works.
Yeah.
All he knows is grifting and bad real estate scams.
What they're consistently trying to do with all of this stuff, guys, is create a lot more of a poverty demographic, because capitalism requires poverty.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? The working poor, that's how the rich stay rich. So the more people you can get at that level and well below that level, that's how capitalism really exists in this country. So with the stripping of all of these entitlement programs, all these people losing their money and all these other ways that they're rolling back, that's what it's designed for. The rich to stay on top, and there be a country for the most part of just working poor people. It's sad, but that's the goal here.
It's the goal. And the funny thing is, a real free market, a real basic non-corrupt capitalist system will correct itself over time. People will come together and be like, you know what? I'm not paying for that. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing that. And the market will adjust itself. People will pay for what they want, and they won't pay for what they don't want. People will have to pay a fair wage, because if you don't pay me a fair wage, I'm not going to do work for you. A lot of specialization, a lot of artisanship, et cetera, has been lost over time. However, over the last, this goes back beyond the United States. We got to take it back to Europe, like 1300s, 1400s. Catholic Church is even in on this a little bit, but I don't want to go too far into that because I don't know enough detail to start talking loose and fast. But slowing down the revelation and ultimate revolution of the working poor, slowing it down, thwarting it, killing the leaders over and over again, has led to a lack of correction in capitalist markets. And so when it would have corrected itself, they squashed that and they kept rising. And then they would do something else and they squashed that. And then when they ran out of labor by their own people, they started the transatlantic slave trade. And then they had to let that go, not because it wasn't lucrative, but because it was starting to not have the return on investment that it used to have, because there was so many uprisings, et cetera, et cetera. That's the only reason they squashed it. Or it became an economic bargaining tool, like in the Civil War. If we free the slaves, they don't have any money to buy ammunition and blah, blah, blah. So there's always been this group of people, like you said, the working poor, that say we're not being treated fairly. They're not all trying to get rich. They just want what's their due. when it doesn't work and that disparity is held for too long, you end up with French Revolution France.
Yep.
Where they're like, you know what? If we can't fix it, we'll just kill all of y'all. And that's why was it Lugioni? What's his name? The little cute boy that's in jail.
Luigi Mangione.
Luigi,
Oh, thank you. I put the words together. Luigi Mangione. That's why it was so dangerous for them when he killed somebody in broad daylight.
Yeah.
And was, if not passively celebrated, outright celebrated. People like, yeah, that's what that insurance company gets. Next thing you know, insurance companies, instead of doing what's right, they just start hiring extra security. This trial is sensationalized because they can't have people running around figuring out that they can just take out the rich people.
But you know what, Joy? The one group of people that no one has actually seen, and we figured it out. The one group of people, whenever they see marginalized people, people of color, Black people getting ahead, gaining, you know, the one group of people they use to knock all that and they Jedi mind trick? Poor white people.
Yeah.
They jump on poor white people.
They tell them their gains are your losses.
Exactly. And they convince them to vote against their own interests. Why? Because those are the numbers. Those are the ones they need to vote those other people in office so that they can do what they're doing now. They always jump on the poor white man's mentality to convince him that he is better than this nigga over here. Right.
And like they said, if you can, Lord, Lyndon B. Johnson, if you can convince the poorest white man he's better than the best Black man, he won't notice you picking his pockets. Hell, give him somebody to look down on and he'll empty his pockets for you, which is what we're seeing, especially if these people that don't even have a 401k go out and start buying Teslas just to support Elon, which is funny. It's not going to work because they don't like Elon.
They don't.
They like Trump. But everything they know about Elon in the past month or so is not something that they like. And you know who's really feeling it? Nebraska. Nebraska, the entire state, perhaps except for Omaha and Warren Buffett. Everybody in Nebraska is freaking out because you cut the farm subsidies.
Yep.
You told all of their workers, 85% of their workforce is undocumented immigrants. You've got them being devastated by that. Now they realize with the tariffs and everything else, in addition to all the other stuff, now their neighbors right up to the north, the easiest, shortest trading partner path. Canada's like, nah, we good.
New phone, who this?
Yeah. No, we don't need you, Nebraska. Your beef, whatever.
The whole of Canada is like, now you're just somebody that I used to know. Didn't have to
cut me off. And they're literally on there. Does anybody in America even care what's going on in Nebraska? No, because you fired John Tester and you're tripping. So what are you going to do? And I'm sorry that's the situation for you. I'm sorry, red states. I'm sorry, Kentucky, when Canada, your closest trading partner, won't buy your bourbon anymore. I'm sorry that the person you voted into office has escalated a trade war, a completely unnecessary and useless trade war that has yielded us nothing, not Nabroka. That's on you. And you aren't even telling, because you're letting your elected representatives believe that it's George Soros funded activists at these town halls instead of you showing up. Hey, here's my voting card. I'm a Republican and this is some craziness. You need to stop him. You need to stop him, because what you just passed in this little continuing resolution budget, all that little liar behind the podium at the press office is saying is no taxes on tips, no taxes on Social Security, no taxes.
Because you're not getting tips. You're not getting Social Security.
No.
But also, that isn't even in it.
No.
That's not in it.
Oh, man.
But cutting $800 billion in Medicaid is in it.
The people in Nebraska need to pull themselves up by their bootstraps.
Boop.
That's what they should do. I'm fine. Here I am with my, DEI life having a great time. I don't know what's wrong with them. You know, they've had every privilege in the world. They've got all that farmland. They should learn how to take care of themselves.
Yeah. I think folks are getting a 101 and seeing who really gets all this government welfare. It's not really Shaniqua and Tyrone.
Thank you.
You know.
Thank you. They mad because one
Never
lady
has
got
been.
some I don't know, milk, soy milk, powdered milk.
Yeah.
That's it. Powdered milk and Similac for her baby. And they wanted to begrudge her that. And meanwhile, they are literally setting their own fields on fire just to stop her from getting some milk. And she's still going to get milk.
Absolutely.
So,
like literally. Milk is coming.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned the continuing resolution. When Chuck caved and they all end up voting that, you know, the bill would go. How did you guys feel about that? Were you like he was in a no-win situation? Did you feel like they should have let it all shut down? Like, where were you guys with that decision when it actually passed last Friday?
Go ahead, Joy.
I will say at first I was like, oh, all ass Democrats ain't no better than, but I'm like, I didn't know the whole thing. But I was irritated. I was like, they should have resisted. They should have put their foot down. They should have let the government shut down. You know, it's always threatened and it never happens. And then I watched Chuck Schumer on The View and he was like, you want to know why we didn't do it? So we had to. He goes, sometimes you got to do something to say so for the good of the country. And I was like, we wanted you to shut it down. And he was like, no, he didn't want to talk to me, but he's like, you got to understand. If they shut the government down, the legislative branch is ineffective. And the executive branch, because there is no legislative branch to go with it, all money stops. And the executive branch can do whatever they want, which is probably why they made such a ridiculous thing in the first place, because they wanted the Democrats to shut down the government. Then they could Trump and Elon could do whatever they wanted. And then when it went belly up, they could say, well, you know, the Democrats shut down the government. Right. And it was also, it brought around a different perspective for me, because I remember when there were so many government shutdown threats from the Republicans during Obama's 2 terms, but they never did it. Yeah. And I bet you it's the same reason, because Obama was smart enough to know that if they did shut the government down, he was going to have expanded executive power.
And the next step, go ahead. I'm sorry, Tom. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, you know what would have been a good idea then? To say that. Yeah. Say that before there were calls for you to step down as the minority leader. Get on your platform, bring Jasmine Crockett and bring AOC, bring the voices of the people, bring Bernie Sanders in there and say, y'all, this isn't just about not shutting down the government. This is about giving Trump unfettered power because we have failed. And if we shut down the government, he can do whatever he wants and we will be powerless to stop him. Say that. Mm-hmm. And some people would believe you and some people wouldn't. But if you say it in advance, if you say it last Thursday before the vote needed to happen, then you can say, those of you who are upset about Donald Trump issuing these executive orders, if the government shuts down, he will actually have the power to do that. And so we cannot let him shut the government down. Shutting the government down is what the Republicans want because they want Trump to be a king. Say that sentence.
It's the same reason that all of the do nothing liberals, I'm not talking about the Congress right now, I'm talking about people who abstained, Jill Stein voted, all of them were like, how come Black people aren't mad? Aren't you angry? They got rid of the Black Lives Matter Plaza, blah, blah, blah. We're like, yeah, that hurt. That stung a little bit, but we're not going out there because all they need is one person to start a fight with one rambunctious cop at a protest, and they'll declare martial law, and we will never vote for another president. Because here's the gag, y'all. I figured it out. If they get a chance to even just have a fight break out where they can blame another entity, Hamas, Black Lives Matter, I don't know, whatever. Gays for Democrats, whatever it might be, if they can blame a party for inciting riots and violence, they will say, well, we might need to consider martial law. Then they will remove Trump for the chessboard themselves and blame it on that party. Install their Project 2025 boy Vance as president, and then declare martial law. Yeah. And then where will we be? That's why I'm in the house.
The very
It's
next
scary.
day after the continuing resolution went forth, they shut down 7 agencies anyway. So it was going to be a false choice regardless. I mean, they were going to end up putting forth their agenda in with the shutdown or without a shutdown. So I think, like what you said, that needed to be conveyed before, the whole shut it down, shut
Before
it
it got
down.
out of control.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
But
Just
I
say
mean,
that.
but if, and before that, I was kind of the notion that it really shouldn't shut down, because when I think of politics, I always go back to the very definition that I've always learned of politics. It's always the science of distributing resources, power, and opportunity. And the best way that you can possibly do that is with some sort of a functioning government. If the government is shut down and you have the executive branch just nitpicking and deciding when they can open it up, no one's going to be able to, benefit from anything. So had that just been conveyed by people like Crockett and, people who are has the ear of the Democratic Party, I think we could have gotten past that. But the shutdown noise was just so loud and pretty much being rang by just about everybody. They thought that we were already living under a shutdown government, not knowing that it can get drastically worse had it been officially shut down.
Right. And I don't know. I mean, I am a fan of the squad and the rest of the young Congress people, but I don't know that they 100% understood that piece of it. I think they were more of the mindset of let's let it burn. Let's be radical. Because I'm in that mindset. Let's let it burn. As much as I follow politics, I didn't really understand it either until Chuck Schumer said it. And I'm taking him at his word. It made sense what he was saying to me, but I don't know that they to your point, Jermaine, he should have brought in the squad and said, here's what we need to do to make sure that he doesn't get absolute power, and had them, if they had stood with him, you got a whole lot of young people that would have listened to, if Jasmine Crockett said, look, we had to approve the budget so he don't get out of hand. Boom. That's all you got to say.
That's all you need to say.
Right. It goes back
because
to our
people
messaging.
trust her.
Yes. We don't have very good messengers in our party. Like when it comes from somebody like Chuck Schumer, it's like, oh God, you have no freaking spine. You know what I'm saying? Had it come from somebody who we have looked to, like Hakeem, he could have flexed a little bit and people would have heard him. I feel like. But for some reason, as far as messaging, he's not forefront right now. He's kind of in the background. And I kind of need him to be front and center. I need him with his hoodie on, with his hat to the back, talking like he's on freaking Flatbush to his people. Because that's how folks are going to freaking respond.
You know what? It kind of reminds me of the divide between undergrads and alums. There's a lot of institutional wisdom that alumni members can pass on to undergrads, but there's also a lot of resistance to playing that game. And it feels to me, to your point, Joy, the people, the young Turks in the party, mostly basically on the congressional side, I mean the House side, because you don't have any real young firebrands on the Senate side. But people like Frost, people like Crockett, people like Presley, people like, the ones that we have turned to because we love hearing their passion and we know that they are legitimately trying to fight for the Republic. Chuck and them, they're like, oh, those kids, they don't know how this works. Instead of saying we need to be united as a caucus and we need to bring we need to be on brand, we need to be on message. Because what you can guarantee is that these MAGA folks, they are parroting the same things.
Right. And
they know that they are lies and they are still saying the lies with a clean conscience. And I'm not saying we should be lying, but we at least need to have a unified messaging promise so that when people come to us with stuff, okay, Phil, you're doing a lot right now.
Yeah, I'm not with you on that. I need you to expand on that because I don't agree with that comment.
But I think the broader issue is that we have some fighters that people are rallying around. The base, the regular folks, the rank and file folks in the Democratic Party are rallying around voices. You don't see a Democrat on the talk shows more than Jasmine Crockett right now. Representative Crockett is the must-book star of the season.
And that's what I wanted to add to what you were saying. Like when you say Pelosi, I just drug her into this, and Schumer and everything, saying these kids don't know how things work. I would go so far as to say that the boomers don't know how it works now. because
Correct.
they grew up in a civilized, somewhat civilized government entity where people would argue and, filibuster and bluster, et cetera, but then they would go eat lunch across the aisle. They would go, some of them real good friends. It was all just for show. And then they would make deals and compromises in the background. But as we started having C-SPAN and 24-hour news cycle, we started to believe that the show we were seeing on the floor of Congress was the real deal, and that they really hated each other. And it was a reality show that we started to believe. And the people coming into Congress after that started to think, no compromise makes you strong, right? Never wanting to reaching across the aisle made you weak. And so they stopped negotiating, and government has been a shit show ever since. And there's the old republic, the old Democrats are still trying to reason with insanity. They're trying to do things within a process-driven system that is already buckled. You can't sit here and say, well, we're going to take it to, we're going to put it up through appellate court. They threw all them out, everybody fired. Well, we'll take it to, I don't know, the DOJ that he gutted. There is no process anymore. So you take it to the streets, which is where the squad shines, because they rally local support. They get letter writing campaigns, people to write their senators and everything. And they do sway public opinion. Ain't nobody really trying to hear Chuck Schumer. Even though I listened, I don't know that a whole lot of other people did, but they would have listened to AOC because they identify with her. And I still remember that when Kamala Harris was running, AOC was the only one that came on TikTok and said, they're not supporting her like they're telling you they are. This is some bullshit. And then they shut her down real quick. They're trying to still do the same, sit in the corner and color to the 30-year-olds, and still maintain their control as geriatrics, when they should be letting some new blood in too. That's what was so exciting about Kamala,
Right. Well, it's a numbers game, because in the beginning, when the squad and AOC and Ayano and all of them were popular, they were speaking a language that only a small group of people within the Democratic Party were responding to. The larger group of Democrats were still swayed by the Schumers and the Pelosi's and the respectability politics. But now that the numbers are, the more like boisterous types are gaining, I don't know if we've overtaken that particular demographic yet, but there's more gaining, wanting to hear, and more people wanting to see that the Democratic Party is going to flex and fight back in the manner that, they're used to. They want to hear words on the street. They want to hear layman's terms. They don't want to hear anything that's politically, expedient to the ear. But, we're gaining in those numbers because we're bringing those voters in now. Those voters were very prominent due to, Kamala. They were like, listen, we don't want this old stodgy white man to be our leader. We want Kamala. And that's how she actually got it, because word on the street, the Democratic establishment, they didn't want Kamala. They wanted somebody else. They wanted to go into the convention and fight for who they really, really wanted. It took a lot of bidding, and they had to listen to what was on the ground in order for them to accept that Kamala was going to be the leader and was going to be the nominee. So there's just a lot that's going on with the evolution of the Democratic Party, a lot of resistance, but they're saying that it's going to take this complete makeover to contend with what's going on the other side, because it's just not going to work. I'm not even sure that Gavin Newsom is going to have the juice, because we need somebody who is going to flex with their chest and almost be ready to take it to the streets.
I'm telling you,
that's
Pete.
what they're doing.
I'm putting my money on Pete.
You can
make fun of his last name if you like. He's openly gay and married and all of that stuff, but I'm putting my money on Pete. At the end of the day, he's still a man. Yeah, and I do believe that people will vote for a white man, regardless of his sexual orientation, over any person of color. I think he's got a shot. I really do. He's just radical enough. He's like radical, like diet radical.
If you put him against Vance, I think it would be an interesting run.
Vance can't hold his job, much as he might want to.
Well, that's kind of my point. If they end up with taking Trump's vice as the next candidate, then I think Pete would have a better than even chance.
But who else do they have on their roster? Nobody.
Nobody. No, they don't.
Has burned
I
the
mean,
public image of everybody else because they all dared to run against him for a hot moment. So who else is out there?
I mean, you in the next 4 years, you could increase Swalwell's profile, perhaps. I mean, people are going to keep pointing to Gavin Newsom. I don't buy Gavin Newsom. I think people are going to look at Josh Shapiro from Pennsylvania. I think, I mean, those are probably the biggest folks you have. Tim Kaine is already flamed out, so that's not going to work. But I think Shapiro, swing state. Gretchen is a woman, the governor of Michigan, which I think, to your point, is untenable in this environment. It shouldn't be. But
well,
I
anybody
agree.
can go through a makeover. Anybody can learn how to match the moment. You know, they may not look the part now, but they can go through some, you know, underground courses. This is how you respond to this. You get some queens up in there and get them straight. They don't know how to respond. You know, give them a good few clapbacks and, you know, their arsenal. You know, they'll be popular. But we're going to have someone who people are going to be drawn to on a more personality level as opposed to what they're trying to do to make the country better. Folks are going to want to have to like really listen to them and be almost sort of like a, you know, like a cult, you know, just kind of like we were with Obama. He inspired.
I'm gonna say this. I'm looking at the people in the comments like Pete doesn't really have a chance because of homophobia. You make a good point. I will say the reason I think he does have a chance is because I follow Pete on Threads. And he is not out there asking for money. Like, as much as I love the squad, every time I get something for LC, it's like $5 is going to help me, blah, blah, blah. Pete's out there just dropping bombs on people. He's like, this is bullshit. This is how this is supposed to go, blah, blah, blah. And it speaks to me of someone who understands that the populace doesn't understand politics. And he's giving it to us chocolate drop by chocolate drop. Like he's like, I'm going to bake you a cake, but I'm going to give it to you one drop at a time. And I feel like if he builds his following over the next 2 or 3 years, that come 2020, what would it be? 2027, January 2027, he becomes a front runner and he's got all these people that he has collected along the way. It's a slow burn. I don't think he could win today, but you give these people another year of $12 eggs and other countries telling us you can't have no eggs. Other countries are telling the United States, fuck your eggs. Like that's what's happening right now, y'all. Do you get this? Mexico is positioning, Mexico with the female president is positioning itself to be the new world power of the North American continent. Do you understand?
With the assistance, by the way, of Xi Jinping,
yes,
who is using a port on the western coast of Mexico to bypass the Panama Canal
by 5 days.
By 5 days, because they can drop it in the port and run it in trucks to the other side into the Gulf of Mexico.
Yo, T-Boo about to be off the
and ship it out, bro. And so this is what Trump didn't understand. People talk about he's playing multidimensional chess. He doesn't even know what a dimension is. Stop it.
You know,
he's not a genius. He's not well. Well,
whoever Scarlett Talk on Life is, I totally agree with you.
That's
I
Liz.
That we're going to be so tired, so broke. 401ks are going to be in the toilet. You know what I'm saying? People might be willing to be like, you know what? I ain't never checked for a gay person, but guess what? I got to be able to give my baby something when I get out of here.
How do you think Obama got elected?
Yeah.
Let's not be at all confused.
Let's let the black dude try. Yeah.
His name is Barack Hussein Obama.
And I still remember Hillary trying to pull that bullshit on his name.
If not for George W. Bush literally bringing the entire world economy to a standstill, do you honestly think that black man would have won? It takes the absolute desecration and denial of hope for you to turn a corner and say, this guy at least is smart.
Right.
Because right now, North America is being torn in two. And he keeps thinking it's funny it might be funny if you were talking to Greg Gutfeld, where you're talking about, I call Justin Trudeau, Governor Trudeau. He keeps talking about they should be our 51st state. We don't need anything from them, but they should be our 51st state. Nobody is laughing at that in Canada.
No, they're not.
Everybody in Canada is looking at you like, is this motherfucker really trying to invade our country?
Right. And Canadians are so unified on giving the middle finger to the United States. And that, like, again, I'm on Threads all day because I stopped watching the news. So I'm just playing on the internet. And like Canadians are like, American people, yo, we're sorry. We really care for you all. We wish you all the best. But we've taken all your products off the shelves.
Yeah.
All of them. I don't care.
With regards to homophobia, Black folks, we've been divorcing ourselves from our homophobia for as long as we've been over here. We do it every Sunday in our churches. You know what I'm saying? If we want a good choir, we're going to understand that choir director is going to be one of the biggest queens in town. You know what I'm saying? We do it all the time. You know,
I have not been to a church that didn't have a gay choir director. That's
their
role.
In the civil rights era.
You said that's their role.
Yeah. Bayard Rustin was one of our architects, and we all knew that he was gay. It wasn't like it was a secret. It was an open secret. But yet, the March on Washington was his brainchild, and he made it happen. So we divorce ourselves from our homophobia all the time.
When we need to.
We do. And I feel like the world does. But it's just such a touchstone to just, a flag to carry, to show people that we have this quote unquote standard when it really isn't there. I mean, I don't know if homophobia will keep somebody from Pete like actually winning. I really don't.
And let's break it all the way down, because homophobia comes in flavors and stages.
Correct.
Transgender, not a shot. There's too much hate on both sides. And even within the LGBTQ community, people are like, I don't really understand. So that's not going to work. Gay men have been around forever. And Pete is a masculine presenting gay man.
Right.
He is not overly stereotypical in his mannerisms. It's a lot of things where people could look at him. If you were going to be bigoted, you would think, you don't look gay. Like that's, I'm talking like people think that way. And that helps them to divorce their homophobia from there was going to be a very real need to put different leadership in. And the man is smart. And he was more popular than Kamala Harris when they were all in the slate to run against Joe Biden back in that was at 2020.
Yeah.
Buttigieg, and his name is funny, it's whatever, but it helped us to remember him. And he did a hell of a job while he was in the cabinet. The man's got the chops to do it. And unless they have another dark horse come out of nowhere, which I can't see happening at the moment, I feel like I'm throwing.
And he's white, Joy. His flagship character is white.
It's gonna have to be white. Look, I'm not even trying to fight that fight. Like, I'm not trying to get another person of color in there right now. I just find me a good white man that's not trying to kill me, and I will vote for him.
Yeah, I would like to believe, because he's a very capable person, without question. He's extraordinarily capable. He's very bright. He is the type of person who I think would represent us on the world stage because his intelligence is so apparent. Somebody like Putin would actually be terrified of him, even if he wouldn't like to admit it, because Putin knows that Trump is an idiot. And so he's having fun manipulating him. They're literally laughing at state-run television in Russia. He is the laughing stock of the world. His senility is on display, and it's only worsening. There's nobody outside of this country. I mean, maybe Orban, and Orban's on his way out. It is very difficult to imagine what this country is going to be like 365 days from now.
Just read Parable of the Sower.
I mean, well, there's that. I mean, if only we had the cool technology from that book. I mean, it's like, I am very concerned about what the state of the country is. And I think the thing that is perhaps even scarier is that as the white population who feels disenfranchised faces staggering economic pressures, the ratio of fuck it is going to go way up here. And these folks do have guns. Let's not be confused. They have a lot of guns. And when they get to the point of F it, I see Tulsa. I see Rosewood. I see scenarios where you're going to take from those that you perceive to have.
Well, see, that's the thing. That's what I've always been worried about is when they get really, really desperate, they're going to come after other minority populations because the Republicans have told them, the Haitians are your problem, the Venezuelans are your problem, the Black people are your problem, whatever. However, they're doing so much damage to poor white people so fast. It hasn't been 100 days, and they've already got people cussing folks out at town halls. People scared to go to town halls for fear that they're gonna get rushed, torching Teslas and stuff left and right. That they're forcing poor white people with guns to bypass the minority population genocide that was on the agenda. They're going straight to eat the rich. That's where they're headed. That's why I keep saying we're going to end up. We're not going to get. What is it called? We're not going to get Jim Crow. We're going to get French Revolution. That's where they're headed to. They're doing it too fast because they don't know how to pace themselves because they ain't got no rhythm. But that's a whole nother story.
But given the way that they're like showing up at these town halls and they're railing against their representatives, we're not even in the conversation. You know what I'm saying? They're not saying nothing about Black folks. They don't even think Black folks have a hand in what's going on. So they're going straight to who they know who the source is.
Right, because they're showing their hand. You're right.
Exactly.
They're telling you, I'm stealing your shit. Yeah. And Miss, I can't know, Sadita?
Sadita.
Sadita. Pete ain't got to go to not nary Muslim Arab country or to Africa because most American presidents don't go there no way. So he can send a representative or an ambassador and he'll be fine.
Yep. Yeah, I am intrigued that Chan feels that Pete is the best possible choice. I don't disagree. I think he is a very capable and compassionate politician, veteran. On paper, he looks spectacular. I do question whether or not the country is emotionally mature enough to look past his husband to elect him to the office. And I only say that because Trump just got elected. And that feels like a long way to march in 4 years. To march from a person who was able to defeat an eminently qualified woman to
Black woman,
true, but he also beat Hillary. So
he beat Hillary, but that was because Hillary didn't do herself any favors either.
I don't disagree. Hillary was a flawed candidate, and she was probably the most losable candidate that went up against Trump, to be honest, because they cleared the decks for her. They didn't really let anybody else try. Joe Biden, we've said it on the show before, Joe Biden would have eaten Trump's lunch.
Yep.
Without question. It wouldn't have even been hard.
Bernie Sanders could have changed. There's two people that I wonder what this country would be like if they had been president. Al Gore and Bernie Sanders.
Mm-hmm.
How could things be different? Al Gore's still out here looking like he's 45. I don't know. He's been hanging with Black people and drinking water. I don't know what he's been doing. Shea butter or something. He looks good.
Shea butter. Chan did correct me. Best outcome, not best choice. So I thank you for refining my comment about your comment. So I think the real tricky part is, and I don't want to get too far afield. I don't want to forget this. So go ahead, Joy.
Did you put a video I asked you for?
I'm trying.
Okay.
But what I will say is that one of the things that I definitely wanted to talk about today that I did not want to be left off was the absolute travesty of the Department of Defense removing the names of Black women soldiers, heroes, who are buried in Arlington National Cemetery. I don't even know what the possible purpose of that could be, but the person that kind of rang out the most to a lot of people is Jackie Robinson, because Jackie Robinson was a national hero in sports and a person who served the military. You don't get a lot of combinations like that, where a person took it upon himself to be a good American and leave and go serve and then come back and still be a sports star who is celebrated throughout Major League Baseball. Everybody knows Jackie Robinson's name. And for you to take him, like, I don't even know what the purpose of that would be. There was no DEI in World War II. In fact, Black people were treated like shit, didn't get the GI Bill.
Yeah.
You're using DEI the way that it was meant to be used. DEI just means N-word. And there were definitely N-words in World War II and World War I. So when they say they're removing DEI, they're removing all traces of specifically Black and gay contributions throughout the history of the United States. Why what does it even matter? Why are they taking this out? Because then you got to remember, textbooks are printed in Texas. Let's not forget that. It's important to the story. When you erase everything from the federal archives, people going to Google shit can't find it anymore. They got a 404 page not found. It becomes myth. All it takes is a generation, 15 years, 10 in some instances, especially in Alabama, for people to forget what is going on, right? And so then you rewrite the textbooks, and next thing you know, Black people came here looking for a better life. They brought themselves over here on makeshift boats and were indentured servants, and they decided to stay and live with the families that loved them. Then they betrayed them and sided with the North during the Civil War. That's the new story, right?
Yeah, but I think it's short-lived, Joy.
It's short-lived, but not short enough. Yeah.
Well, because what we come to realize that the only reason why we have these white inventors is because what they were able to do is pretty much patent the things that Black folks did. They got the patents, knowing that the Black folks actually invented it, but the white mind patented it, so we think he did it.
Right.
And it might have been a delayed learning process, but we finally understood that, wait a minute, we were actually the genius behind this invention. The white man just had the fortitude to, put his name on it, and, he celebrated for it. So, yeah, you can erase things, but we have always been storytellers. I don't know if I've learned the lion's share of my history in a classroom, even at college, to be honest with you. These things to me are a lot more performative than anything.
Well, it's beginning of normalizing erasure of minority demographics, and it's going in two directions. Like, this is close to my heart. I've noticed over the last week multiple character attacks on Spelman College. Spelman isn't kind to the deaf, and you know what? That lady that put up all those posts, she was right, because Spelman College, some of those dorms were built in the late 1800s and they ain't got no ramp. They working on it. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. They ain't got no air conditioner either. So what do you expect? But hating on the fact that they didn't put captions on her Zoom. Girl, work your own captions. I don't know what was wrong, but they apologized and all this. She just kept dragging them across TikTok and Twitter till, of course, Spelman class of everything came out. And then this other woman tried to jump down Spelman's throat, saying that the students voted Slutty Vegan, which is a Black woman-owned vegan restaurant here in Atlanta. They voted her off of Spelman's campus, and that hurts economic power. These bougie little Spelman girls, blah, blah, blah. Come to find out, Pinky Cole, who is the owner of Slutty Vegan, she just closed the site. Like, people close restaurant sites all the time. They weren't making no money on Spelman's campus because them girls eat chicken. So I don't know what to tell you.
You're vegan.
Yes. It was a great idea.
In the South on a Black college campus.
There's
selling $20 vegan burgers.
There's 2 or 3 Slutty Vegan locations in the city, but they also serve a wider population than just one college campus. So she closed down that site. She's probably gonna put it up somewhere else. Maybe Georgia Tech, who knows? But Spelman was like, can we get Twisted Taco back in here? And so that's all it took. This woman went on slander. I corrected her and had 15 people tell me that they had seen that same picture. And she doesn't even have an article. She has a picture of some old dude and some old woman. And just the caption just says, Spelman voted off, blah, 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 blah. It's all just slander, propaganda, Russian bots, whatever. But to go after the #1 Black liberal arts college seems like a one-off, but when you're trying to undermine Black excellence, you start at the top, right? And you say, well, if Spelman isn't really doing all that great, and those girls coming out of there have all this attitude, what about Morehouse? What about Clark? What about FAM? What about Howard? Next thing you know, they're not necessary and they're not producing quality anyway. And then they strip all money away from all HBCUs yet again. And yeah, we can overcome that. We can rise above. We can fight, hang on until somebody's out of office or whatever. But I bring this up because it's Spelman today.
Yep.
And tomorrow is going to be Morehouse or FAM or Howard or Fisk or something where they say these students are subpar, which hurts. Again, remember, you got to think about the other side of it from a money standpoint. A lot of Black athletes are choosing HBCUs right now because of this climate. If they can continue to convince them that going to an HBCU is not in your best interest, they maintain the revenue power of these athletes coming out of high school. It's all money. It's always money. Everything goes back down to money. And if you dig through the money, it goes down to, can I get laid? Everything ends there. A lot of the stuff that they're doing. One of the reasons that MAGA was so popular with the younger white males is because so many of them are involuntarily celibate. And those incels were like, yo, if they take away women's rights, maybe I got a shot with that cheerleader. I promise you that's the thought. I've said this before. Imagine this. If they take away all abortion rights and men weren't really getting the sentencing that they deserve for aggravated assault, sexual assault, et cetera. Yeah. But they also trying to give rights of the father to the child, whether the woman wants it or not. Some incel can follow some girl home, assault her, and if she gets pregnant, he's in her life for the next 20 years, and she can't do shit about it. That's a plan for some people. These are the same guys that roofie girls in the club. And it's not just some, I know of an incident with a whole community of people where it was like a festival or what have you. And the bartenders and all the guys in the room were in on it, and they roofied a whole room full of girls. And it wasn't until a couple of girls took a sip and realized what was happening, called the police and had everybody rounded up. And then they couldn't find out one of the guys that put the shit on it, that started the whole event, helped them to roofie all these women. And this was a business event. Mm-hmm. So I don't put nothing past dudes trying to get laid, and the reason they get money is so they can get laid, and that's why Elon is the way he is. It's exactly why he is the way he is. It's the reason Trump is the way he is. It's why he wears them long ties, because ain't nothing else long on him.
Speaking of people whose external lives don't mirror their internal truths, there was a state senator who was basically attempting to introduce a bill criminalizing critique of President Trump until he was arrested for soliciting young girls to be his sexual partner.
Well,
and this in an environment where two other Republican fixtures, including one who has a liturgical background, were both just indicted for, and this was a term I had never heard before. So it's CSAM. We used to probably call it child prawn. But now my understanding is that it is children's or child sexual assault material. So they're kind of they're reframing it, because when you say prawn, it almost implies complicitness and you were a willing participant, blah blah blah. But since these are children, they've changed it and turned it into an acronym. A minister and one like a business person, and they were trading this material back and forth and finally got tripped up. He was palling around with Jeffrey Epstein. The Jeffrey Epstein files were supposed to have been released 2 weeks ago. They had them skinny little binders, which was just the redacted phone list that had been out for 5 and 6 years. The rest of it was supposed to come. Remember Pam Bondi, Attorney General Barbie got out there, hey, Cash, you told me that you gave me all the stuff. And Cash was like, well, I think it's somewhere up in New York. Well, get it from there. You've got until tomorrow. That was 2 weeks ago. And you haven't seen anything about it. But he's supposed to release the JFK files, because the JFK files is what they really want is JFK. I did release a lot of it. But what they want is JFK. They want the JFK files. Nobody really wants Epstein anymore because this is where we are in this country. And
Yep.
I'm waiting. I know it in my heart that there are people looking at what's going on who are escalating and being disgruntled. These same people who stormed the Capitol on the basis of lies are now living in their truth.
Or being arrested for other crimes.
Yeah.
Or being arrested for other crimes. So you already have the pump being primed, folks.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to speculate on what is likely to happen. I feel like there's something that's going to happen. That's what
Me too. They're just in the midst right now, and what I'm seeing on all accounts, they're just trying to build this white man's world, in that the white man can't be touched, he can't be prosecuted, he can't be punished,
he can't be questioned.
He can't be questioned.
He's
Anything
God.
that's great in this country, the white man is behind it. He authored it. That's why we're erasing anything that any black person has ever done. That's what this is all about to me, because right now they have all the boxes checked. They have all the levers of power at their disposal. So they're doing what they should be doing with all this power. They're trying to set up this narrative that, existed back in the day. If it came from the white man's tongue, it's pretty much almost next to godliness. And we have just come so far in our thinking and our evolution, and we've learned so much. Not just us as black people, but them too. We know a lot better. We do. But they're doing this to try to foster a generation behind us.
Yes.
This is the world that we're going to be living in.
Right. And everybody needs to know their place.
Yeah. And I don't know if they can be successful in it, because there's too many interracial babies in this country for that to even be possible. Even my house on freaking Christmas Eve, I'm looking at so many multiracial kids in my family. It's ridiculous. I'm the darkest one in there. That's what this world is. So it's a catch up that they're trying to play, but because they have the power right now, they're trying to do it really, really quickly. And they're doing it in very petty ways, such as erasing us from, what you just mentioned, Tom. So I don't put as much in it when they're like, all of a sudden brandishing and talking bad about Spelman College and just trying to negate all the positives about things like that. I don't put much weight behind it, because I feel like we have learned too much to counter that. I can't erase what Spelman has done for this country as a result of just a week of bad press. I can't.
You can't. Because you grew up with it. But think about someone who is 10 years old right now. Never heard of Spelman College. Never heard of Jackie Robinson. Doesn't know about Katherine Johnson or Mae Jemison or any of that. And by the time they start taking an interest of things outside their own house, all they see when they turn 15, which is in 5 years, is white people did everything. Black people don't do anything. Black people are a burden on society. How do you not believe that? Think about the way so many people are influenced, especially outside of this country, influenced to believe that Black Americans are all like pimps and drug dealers and prostitutes and strippers and whatnot, because that's what they see. And they've controlled it outside, but we are starting to get outside of this country and let people know we're actually the reason this country is great at all. We and other communities of color have contributed to this country to make it so amazing as it was in around 2010. But that 10-year-old becomes a 15-year-old, becomes a 25-year-old who, if they are white, think that they are destined by God, because they always throw God into it, to rule as the natural order. If they are Black, they are influenced to believe that their place is to serve their God, the white man. Because who is going to we're going to have pockets of people who are going to resist and try to tell them, but it'll move from keeping history alive to mythology, because it's not on Google. It's not in the Federal Reserve. They don't burn down the damn National Museum of African American History and Culture. That never existed. This lynching thing, this is just Stonehenge. Just means nothing. They can say whatever they want, and it won't take long. Remember Jane Elliott, who I adore, said that she could end racism if she could just have some 5-year-old kids and have them stay away from their parents until they got old enough to vote. She goes, we can end racism, but you got to keep the parental influence out. And so they're trying to do this on a national scale, is influence the next generation, because they feel like Gen Z is already lost. But because Gen Z doesn't read and they Google
they need to attack hip hop then, because I feel like hip hop is the one thing that pretty much introduces, that other side to our side. I feel like that genre, when hip hop came, I feel like that sort of like gave them like a head start as to anything that anybody else could have ever done. Like young white kids are just pretty much mesmerized by that world.
They don't mind pigeonholing us as entertainers. They're gonna keep trying to recruit us for basketball, football, and music.
To learning more about us, I feel like that. Like once they step into that world, they like, well, what is it? So what you say, Mama? What you've been saying about so and so ain't really true, because we take dance class together, and what you say and what I'm looking at aren't the same things. So
now, that being said, imagine how the Super Bowl would have been if we had gotten Lil Wayne instead of Kendrick. Lil Wayne, who has said that he's never experienced. Say what?
Somebody mentioned my name in the comment. I didn't get to see it because I was talking. What was that?
She said half the world still thinks Jesus was white. With all the evidence to the contrary. But to your point about like hip hop being influential, imagine if the Super Bowl had been Lil Wayne, like some people wanted, instead of Kendrick. We would not have gotten the masterpiece that we got. But Lil Wayne has come on talking about how pandering to white people and saying, I've never experienced racism. Well, he's fine. People in my audience, I love him. Look at what Snoop did. Look at what Nelly did. You can't. I can't be 100% sure that a group of rappers wouldn't hurt our cause as much as help. It just depends on what they're talking about.
Well, white folks value their comfortability. Anytime you disrupt them feeling comfortable about anything, they're gonna like. So when Lil Wayne says things like that, there's like, oh, okay, I can digest that. You know what I'm saying? They have to be centered, and Kendrick wasn't trying to center them at the Super Bowl, so they felt like, wait a minute, this is not for me. So,
but then they still turn around and try to do the little hustle dance, which
because it's running all over the place right now.
So I do have. We're getting close to an hour and a half, and there was something that Joy asked me to pull, and I was able to pull it. And so I'd like to feature it because it is something that speaks to the environment of the country right now. And it is something that should give pause to some of the folks who thought they were going to be able to ride that Trump train. And I think it's especially apropos. Joy Ann Reid stitched this because she no longer has a TV show during which she might address it. But just to see her in her glory, pointing her finger as she watches this foolishness is quite enjoyable. So let's take a look at some folks who are talking about their vote for orange foliage.
Show of fingers. Who approves of what Elon Musk has been doing in the Trump administration? None of you. And who disapproves? All 7 of you.
He wasn't elected to do anything. Like, I don't understand his position. It's a made up position that they made, department or whatever. And he's been going through with the sledgehammer, just actually dismantling everything with the approval of Trump. So I'm almost at the point where, did he actually buy the election to do what he wanted to do?
He was president for 4 years.
Girl, we told
you knowingly chose to put him back in office, having watched him in office for 4 years. How can you be surprised?
I don't feel like he was this aggressive last time, because I don't think anyone would have voted for him if they expected to see what we're seeing now.
I don't understand the need to make me piss every other country off. Like Canada. Like we love Canada, don't we? Like my whole life, there's never been a problem with Canada.
I thought he was going to change things with affordability and make things cheaper, but by putting these tariffs in and terrorizing the world, now things are just going to get more expensive. Everything I believed was going to happen, I think, is going to go the opposite direction.
I feel like a lot of his actions have just been disruptive and creating chaos.
He didn't come out and be real with us and say, hey, I'm going to cut hundreds of thousands of jobs, and your bills are going to go up. Like, that wasn't campaigned on.
You voted for Trump in 2024. but you've been very critical of him so far in our conversation. Someone watching this might say, why did she vote for the guy?
Sure. I think what he campaigned with and compared to what he's doing is pretty opposite.
Yeah, I didn't see this coming. I didn't think he was going to take these points of views that he's taking.
I thought that his first 100 days, like he talked about, would be so much better than they are. It's a little frightening too. He's so erratic and getting to the point where I'm almost scared to watch the news. I mean, it's a little bit frightening.
He's acting like a dictator. He's basically letting, what he says goes, and he's not getting approval from the people, Congress. He's not taking the appropriate measures to put things in place. He thinks he's it. He's in charge. He's a king. He's a dictator. He said he would do this. Running everything.
Right now, we almost have to accept the fact that we're in a dictatorship, and there's nothing anybody can do to stop him. He has immunity from everything. So how are we to strip him from his powers? How can we put him in jail? Like, who's going to do it?
It would have been
Girl,
so
where
much
was you?
easier to say, I just didn't like the Black Asian lady. Had they just said that, it would have just pretty much erased the whole entire discourse. I didn't like the Black Asian lady.
But
right.
What I liked about it was that their confusion and their being flummoxed by what he's doing means that there's many, 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 many more people who are thinking the same.
Oh, yeah.
Not his 23 or 35% calcified crust of Trumpers, but the other voters are like, wow.
We apologize to our viewers for putting y'all through that, but I needed y'all to see that.
For real. I mean, it's a shame, but it's also a critical turning point in how this country is viewing itself and how we're dealing with the crisis that we're facing. So
there may be some hope for the midterm elections, but it depends on these same people who are flummoxed right now. I don't need them to be flummoxed and be like, well, I guess I'll never vote again. No, I need you to be flummoxed and come out and vote Democrat. Even if it's just this one time, hold your nose and vote Democrat so that we can stop him the way y'all want us to stop him too now. Yeah.
There were some Black people in the mix too, right? Because my screen was kind of
dark.
dark. Yeah.
It was the first woman who spoke was Black.
It's just funny how we hear certain things. Like everything they said, I was like, I specifically heard Trump say those things.
He said, I'm going to be a dictator, but just for the first day. Well,
but what he did not say was, he also said, I would end the war in 24 hours. He also said, your groceries, amazing word, groceries. Nobody was saying it until I used it. Really, bro?
But he also said
your prices were going to be coming down. He also said we're going to get the gangs and the thugs and the illegals out of the country. He said a lot of things, but he's doing more. And he didn't bring any prices down. He hasn't solved the war. And he's not just kicking out gang members.
But she also said, I want to give you $25,000 to help you buy your first home. I want to give you $6,000 for the first year of your child's life. She also said that. So it's like,
but that's Kamala Harris, who's Black and a woman.
But that's what I'm saying. It's like
it's Donald Trump telling lies, and he's white and a man.
I don't. I mean, I get what you're saying, but I'm just trying to tell them what I heard too from her.
No, absolutely. Yeah. But the problem wasn't the people who voted for her. The problem was the people who voted for him because they wanted to listen to him and believe him more than they wanted to believe the rational things that Kamala Harris was saying. Yeah. So, I mean, it is what it is. And I think Shannon has the right of it. People really don't pay close attention. It's a beauty pageant. It's a popularity contest. Competence
elections haven't changed since we were in high school and the president of the freshman class or the sophomore class was the most popular person with a nice smile that people thought was cute. It's the same shit now as it is always.
It is. You'd like to believe that it would be different, but it's simply not. And so it's going to have to be the pain for them.
The stove is hot.
For us who, I'm going to live through it. I lived through the first 4 years. But he wasn't empowered to do what he is doing now. And
they weren't attacking the government, all government checks and balances. Like there was a comment maybe 30 minutes ago with somebody, she says she was a boomer. I can't scroll back and find it. She said boomers like her think that, there's still some, she said she didn't pay a lot of attention to politics before recent years because she just felt confident in the systems of checks and balances. And that's what I mean about Schumer and them working off old information. There are no checks and balances anymore unless you are actively thwarting them at every turn, because it's not about there not being a rule in place to stop them. It's about them saying, fuck them rules. And they don't care. And the fact that because people believe that checks and balances are still there, when Doge shows up and says, give me all your computers, they're like, well, this doesn't feel right, but I guess he's here. It must be legal. No, it's not. They're not playing by legal rules. They're just doing whatever they want. And nobody's stopping them because we keep thinking it can't possibly be this crazy. Yes, it is.
It's just the black mind with regards to politics and democracy. I mean, I've always felt like that as Black folks, we've never really truly benefited from a democracy. We do the best we can. I mean, we've been in chains literally and figuratively ever since we've been over here. So how can you be so freaking shackled, but have the benefits of a democracy at the same time? But yet we vote for the survival in this country. You know what I'm saying? Because whoever we vote for, we're not going to get the full menu that we're voting for. Like whatever we order, we can be guaranteed that half the shit ain't coming to the table.
Right. All we getting is eggplant and potato tots. That's all we get.
So we do what we can with what we know, the best that we have, to choose from. And I guess because we have always operated like that, we're able to survive a lot differently. And our vantage point about surviving is just always going to be different from our other races and cultures in this country. And that frustrates us that we're always going to see things from that point of view, and they won't. So I don't know if there's ever going to be, kumbaya amongst, how we should be governed.
No, it won't be a kumbaya. If anything, it'll be like, you tired yet? Yeah, I'm tired. All right, let's go. Like they're going to have to exhaust every other reason for their current situation before they come around to, well, I guess it isn't the Haitian immigrants. I guess it's not immigration problems. I guess it's really these rich white people that I thought I was going to be one of them one day, because they still believe that one day they're going to hit the lottery and be one. You ain't going to never be one. You have more in common.
This is the closest they've gotten to being on our level. The closest.
Yes. And they're about to get even closer, because if you don't already own property, it's going to get real hard.
Yeah.
If you don't already have a retirement fund, it's going to get real hard. If you were planning on retiring in the next 3 or 4 years, think again, because it's about to be a beast out here.
You know what I'm particularly enjoying, though? I'm meeting just white people I haven't met before. I see them around, and they're being especially nice. I guess because they're just trying to pretty much state their claim, or, so in some sort of way that I didn't vote for him. You know what I'm saying? It's coming across in the, the subtleties and then, the nonverbal communication. I'm like, I get it. And I'm like, yeah, welcome to my world. You don't want me to paint you with that brush, but yet my whole life I've been painted just like every Tyrell that you've seen on the news.
I can't get this paint off, right?
But I'm enjoying it.
Another guy that I work with, he's actually I'm not going to out him because I want him to keep being my mole. But another guy that I work with said that he is surprised at how many people come in his office and assume that he voted Republican, because he's a very well put together older white gentleman. He's got like the snowy white hair, and he's very aloof. But he's aloof because he's an introvert, right? They have no idea what his real life is like, because he keeps working at home separated, and they come in there like, we won, and he was like, I'm sorry. And they go, and they won't even catch the cues. They'd be like, I know you can't talk about it at work, but yo, my God. And he's like, thanks for coming by. And he's letting me know that one, this one, them two over there, that woman. Yeah, don't trust none of them. And I'm gonna let him continue to be my mole.
All right. I would like to, before we wrap the show, I would like to thank everybody who invited somebody to come to the show. This was a really great opportunity for us to see and hear from some new voices in the chat. We thank you. I want to give a shout out especially to Miles, who jumped in a lot. Now, Liz has been with us before, Scholarly Talk on Life, but she definitely was in the Heezy today.
Miles has been with us. Miles is James Herndon. So,
oh, Lord. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Miss Sedita came in, dropping facts. We had Phil Harrison, who was back and in full effect, commenting, house down.
Phil just showed up. He's like, I'm supposed to bring somebody. Next time, Phil, bring your uncle
bring
next
somebody,
time, Phil.
Phil.
Bring
somebody. Anthony Turner started off strong, but then he got completely washed away in a wave of all of these other
new
people who were giving comments.
We brought you some new friends, Anthony.
We brought you some new friends, and we just want to thank you. We are growing, and growing is great. So keep watching. We're trying to put little clips on different social media channels where you can give little shareable moments, maybe entice some folks to come along and play. Please hit like and subscribe and hit the notification bell. Invite people to subscribe. We know y'all have other Facebook groups you're talking about. Come on ahead and have a coffee clatch on Thursday with us. Speaking of which, we're going to be a little bit earlier for our East Coast people next week. I have something I need to do in the evening, and Joy and I are both available. And so we're going to come on probably closer to 6:30 next
East
Thursday.
Coast, yeah.
So East Coast time, 6:30 East Coast time. So
and I'll see you in 2 weeks, people. I'll be gone next week.
Jermaine, he's giving us the 2 and 2. He'll be back in 2 weeks, and I'll be back in 2 weeks. I won't be back on the 17th. I will probably not be available on the 17th. But that is where we are. And with that, I will say, oh, look, Anthony brought a cousin. Come on, cousin.
Come on, cousin.
Right.
I will say I'm Tom Cunningham.
I'm Jermaine Taylor.
I'm Joy Stevens.
And this is Steel Sharpen Steel. We'll be back. Come on, bring some more folks. Joy gonna have that little thing on her wall like she used to have behind her.
Yeah, give me a minute to get all this
decorations.
She gonna have a thing up next week.
Wherever I'm doing this from the next week is gonna be that 92% poster because I got it.
Blam. 92%. So thank you, Nikki Freestyle. And if anybody would care to come on and be a guest, Jermaine is unavailable next week. Any of you newbies who are interested in dropping some knowledge and appearing on screen, except for Chan, because we don't want Chan. That was reverse psychology. So we'll see. Come on and join us next week. We appreciate it.